Well, it's Saturday, November 2nd. November already. How did that happen? It's 11 a.m. Eastern Time, and it's time for me, Bob Harris, to go live and ask me anything time. Before we get to your questions, footballguys.com is the website. I appreciate you joining me here every Saturday at this very time. Chop things up with you. Also, Tuesdays, 7 p.m. Eastern Time for On the Hot Seat. This past week, I had the sports affiliations tip major on. We went through things. We usually focus on the waiver wire then. We'll focus more on the lineups today. And I see the questions already coming in. I see the people. Hi, Andrew. How are you? Nice to see everyone here. Thanks for coming. Hit the subscribe button, the notification bell. If you so desire, you can like me. If you don't like me, dislike me, whatever. We'll chop things up and have a good old time. So I'm going to go through some injuries and stuff before I get to the questions. I've been thinking, I've been going like on the radio show. By the way, you can hear me on the radio, Sirius XM Fantasy Sports Radio, every day except Tuesday, Mondays, Wednesdays, Thursdays, Fridays, 10 p.m. Eastern Time till midnight. Saturday night, tonight, you can hear me 8 to 11 on NFL Radio and the Fantasy Channel. Sunday, you can hear me with Jeff Mans doing the pregame show from 11 to 1. But I always do the injuries by game and the games by time so that people have a better understanding of the fallback plans. I think when I've been doing this, I've been doing it like by position. So I don't know what's better. You can comment. I'll keep doing it by position here just because I think it seems like it works better. But it's weird. Like, how do things happen, right? How does this happen? How did I get here? Where everything else I do, everything is organized. All the things I do are organized by games with all my injuries lined up. I prepare for these things, people. You'll be surprised to learn, probably. But in this case, I just like to go by position. So let's do that. And there are stories, obviously, we'll discuss Anthony Richardson. So it does make sense to do it by position, but also the reason I do it by game on the radio is because we talk about all the games, but also because, it helps to know what your fallback options are. So I am going to do it by position here. So I appreciate the feedback. If anyone else wants to chime on in. I appreciate that as well. And thank you for that comment, Jeff. I appreciate it. So let's do that and get that out of the way. The funny stuff first. Quarterbacks. Sad day in America, and when Anthony Richardson is benched in favor of Joe Flacco. I know no one's as upset about this as I am. I'm more upset. I'm not really upset, right? It had to happen. We know it. Yeah, Mr. Scampers. What about the Puka? So I thought it was interesting, and I'll get the all the wide receivers, but I thought it was interesting how it came about Thursday when we heard he was hurt, and then all the insiders at the same time. They must have got the group text from the agent that it was not a big deal, but he is questionable, so we don't know if he's going to play. Hey, Toronto Dave, good to see you. Not a sad day. I know it's not. I know. But actually, I'll get into all this. I have been talking to people in August about their expectations for this receiving core, and James Boyd of The Athletic, who's been really on point with his analysis of the Colts, told me that he thought Downs would lead the team in receptions. This was with Anthony Richardson when they were watching, based on what they were watching in August. So maybe not as bad news, but we'll see. I don't think this is a permanent move, but it doesn't matter. I mean, Anthony Richardson is not, whatever I hoped he would be coming into the season, he's not going to be that. He may emerge and be a viable asset at the end of the season, and that would be fantastic. I'm hoping for the best, but I can't play him now. No, well, I obviously can't play him now, but I mean, we're at the point where even if he's in the lineup, it'd be hard to play him on a weekly basis. So anyway, let's get into the quarterbacks. And we'll discuss some of the injury issues and some of the other things. Lamar Jackson's fine. Did his usual thing. We were talking about this week, and my radio co-host Mike Dempsey gets a little more worried about these things. That 2 days of no practice, and I think for Jackson, it's just this is par for the course. I mean, he misses a lot of practice time, and it doesn't seem to have much effect. Said the MVP race at the moment. He's going to be perfectly fine. So good with that. The big one there's a couple we're watching. Derek Carr will be back and going up against Carolina Panthers. Great news there. Jordan Love is the one we're all watching, right? I mean, that's the interesting one. In that game, both quarterbacks groin for Jordan Love. Jared Goff had an ankle issue. He's fine, practiced fully throughout the week and seems to be perfectly fine. And so, but there's bad weather for that game, right? There's rain in the forecast. So do they risk it with Jordan Love, who's questionable with the groin injury we saw last week? He made it through part of the game and then had to I don't want to say tap out because that's inflammatory, said Anthony Richardson. But he couldn't make it through the game. And I guess that's the concern, right? Is that he gets into the game and he can't make it through the game. It's a great passing matchup for him, right? And you would love for the assets there to be able to take advantage of it. And Scampers is hearing the same as all the NFL insiders all heard at the same time, almost as certainly from Puka's agent. It was literally like all the text, like it was Schefter, then Rappaport, then who announced that, Francis? Scampers, can we confirm this? Like, is it a rando on Twitter, Francis, or is it somebody who actually said it? So I don't know. I'm doing live stream, so I can't really look at my notifications as much. So let's get some confirmation on that if we can. Still half asleep. It's not that early. So Jordan Love is the big question mark here, and we'll see. And it's, it doesn't help that it's a late afternoon kickoff, so that kind of limits your options. So we'll watch that. But also, the bigger issue is, does he get in the game and not make it through? I remember Steve Cohen, my great friend from Sirius, back in the day, he and Jay Glazer had a site called Pro Football Injury News, and he would always talk about the varying injuries and what kind of weather conditions are not good for them. Underdog NFL announced to be Diana Rossini. Okay. So speculate, please. Yeah. So we'll see how this come out. And I mean, I'm like, it wouldn't totally shock me that he got on the practice field. So yeah, we'll see. I mean, so assuming he plays, then what's your level of confidence in him being able to make it through a game on a wet surface? And like, I would love to play him against Detroit. According to the Tennessee Titans, you can get your passing game going in great order against the secondary, and without Aiden Hutchinson, rushing the passer, that adds to it. So, maybe that'll all part of the decision. Here's the thing, though. Like, I think generally speaking, when a team is comfortable enough to put a player on the field, they expect him to play. So, I mean, if you want to hang your hat on that, but it's probably going to depend on your options, right? That's the wise course of action, is like, oh, who else do I have, and what am I getting based, what do I need? Do I need an upside play? And Jordan Love is an upside play in this matchup, right? He just is. I said the Tennessee Titans, Will Levis, I don't know if he's playing or not. He's questionable. I don't know why they'd run him back out there. Maybe Mason Rudolph will start if he can't play, but there are other issues there as well. I mentioned Derek Carr. I think that's it for the quarterback situation. Let's move on to the running backs in the same game as Jordan Love. Josh Jacobs listed as questionable. My feeling is he will also play. Yes, both rain and wind. So this just a quick side trip here. I'm pretty weather agnostic. Football has been played in the winter for many, many years. Inclement weather is part and parcel of winter, and lots of offense still happens. Like, is it ideal? No, I use it as a hair splitter, right? Like, if I have two very close, if I'm deciding between two players that are very close, like, sure, it's like a no-brainer. Oh, this guy's just as good as this guy, and he's playing in better weather. I want to do that. But if it's if it's a big difference, yeah, it probably doesn't keep me from playing guys. But and rain, like anymore with gloves the receivers use. I mean, I don't know if they're even capable of. Well, some of them are clearly, but I don't think the weather is that big a deal. Winds, I start worrying when the gusts are up to 50 miles an hour. If it's just like strong winds, I don't panic too much. But obviously, it's not ideal. It's just like, this guy, like Jared Goff, has a little bit of an ankle issue, and here's a player that's right even with him in my ranking. Well, just play the guy who doesn't go into the game without an injury. I think some of those cases that's an easy call for me. So Josh Jacobs questionable. I think he's going to play. We'll find out. Again, it's a late kickoff. Emmanuel Wilson, Chris Brooks standing by as needed. Chris Brooks gaining some ground. Matt Waldman, very happy about that. Talked to him about that Monday. Go check out our podcast, the name of which I cannot say on a Football Guys platform without 1,000 sorry Joes. Goff not good outside. Well, this is true. Mostly not. So back to the injuries, we go running back. So Tony Pollard's the one that, and I've seen questions. I'll get to the questions. Tony Pollard didn't practice all week. It's a foot issue. Tyjae Spears ruled out. Is Julius Chestnut going to be a target of opportunity against a very generous Patriots run defense? Maybe so. Be interesting for DFS purposes. I don't know, like if you've gone out and grabbed him. I noticed my notifications when the injury report came out last night lit up with the people acquiring Julius Chestnut, grabbing him off the waivers or grabbing him off their waiver wire. So a lot of that. Brian Robinson Jr. is limited in practice all week, but seems like he will play. On the other side of that ball, by the way, Tyrone Tracy is cleared from the concussion protocol. So he is set to go in what's not like a totally daunting matchup, right? And it seems like he's clearly taken over the workload there. So Travis Etienne, Tank Bigsby, both game time decisions, along with two of the wide receivers there. We'll talk about Brian Thomas Jr. and Gabe Davis. Zach Moss is doubtful. So Chase Brown to the moon, as the kids would say. Jonathan Brooks is not going to play this week. Their listing was questionable. They haven't activated him yet. I think they have until Wednesday to do it. So it sounds like he won't play this week. And if he doesn't, if they don't bring him back next week, are they going to they have a bye the week after? So like if they bring him back, even if they activate him next week, will he play? I don't know. I think this is so Dempsey keeps trying to call him Joey. We got to be careful. So there's that. The other running backs on the hot spot here are Zamir White's questionable. Kendry Miller's out. Bucky Irving has not practiced yet, so it's a Monday night game. We'll get the injury report from that soon enough. My guess is he will play. But Todd Bowles has said the toe is going to be an ongoing issue the rest of the season. I like Rachaad White a little bit just because of his receiving ability, especially with the receiving assets limited to a degree. So there's that. So, by the way, Kendry Miller is out. Jamal Williams is doubtful with a groin injury. So not that anyone was limiting Alvin Kamara at all, but limited less. And again, it's a really good matchup, people. The Carolina Panthers are stopping no one. Zamir White questionable in more ways than one. Wide receivers, we talked about Puka a little bit, came down with a knee injury, seems truly questionable. Sean McVay said he wouldn't bet against Puka Nacua playing against Seattle. We'll see. It's a late afternoon kickoff. DK Metcalf is out in that same game. The Brian Thomas Jr. and Gabe Davis, I mentioned both questionable. It seems like Brian Thomas Jr. was trending towards playing earlier in the week. Christian Kirk is out. So we have a Parker Washington in play now. Kamara's banged up with Scampers, but he keeps playing no matter what. It seems like a broken hand. He's got the ribs. He's got all kinds of things. So, but he is off the injury report. That is true. Royal Slade. Oh yes, I knew where this was going. So we'll see what happens with the Jaguars offense. But I can tell you one thing that's going to happen no matter what. Parker Washington is going to have a role. It wasn't a great role for Christian Kirk, right? He's got 27 catches on the year, but Parker Washington in his second year here seems to be primed for a good role. But it's the tight ends that I'm interested in. Evan Ingram now in prime position to reap huge targets if Bretton Strange doesn't limit him too much. Amari Cooper listed as questionable. Curtis Samuel also questionable. Cooper's limited all week. I don't think he's in danger of not playing. I just don't know what the role would be. Adam Thielen listed as doubtful. Xavier Legette is questionable. Panthers struggling to put all the pieces together. Juju Smith-Schuster is not going to play this week, by the way. I think Andy Reid mentioned week 11. Quentin Johnston off the injury report. Jalen Polk cleared from the concussion for the Patriots. Calvin Ridley missed 2 days of practice. No, he worked fully Thursday and then didn't practice Wednesday, Friday, but he's off the injury report. So that's good news there. Tight ends, David Njoku off the injury report. TJ Hawkinson, good to go. Noah Fant ruled out. Dallas Goedert ruled out. And TJ Hawkinson is back. Also, if we're going to do kicker news, Greg Joseph is not going to kick. And I'm not entirely sure who his replacement is. I think they have two guys on the practice squad, and I don't want to play either of them. Ingram should be getting 10 targets every week. I feel this also. Ingram Guy was drafting as tight end. I think he finally has a chance to live up to what I projected. I talked a little bit about this last week, and I want to talk about it weekly because I do think, being right or wrong are temporary conditions. They're not permanent. You're right in the moment or wrong in the moment. And it's funny. I mean, even within games, you think there's a certain outcome. And we were watching Thursday Night Football, and it was just miserable through the first half. And then, got a little more projection in the second half. And, what you thought was going to be is not so, or what was right in the moment is not right in the moment. So give yourself a little leeway, people. If you're not right about a player right now, if you still believe in that player or you have convictions, you're able to hold on to them. I've been quick to move on from players this year, especially at tight end, just because there's such a wide range of guys available who are equally bad. When you get a good one, hold on to them and don't let them go. It's same with some of the other positions. There's been some players emerging. We'll see what Chase Brown does this week. I know I have some questions about him. So let's get into the questions. By the way, hi, I'm Bob Harris. Glad to meet you. Thanks for coming to the Ask Me Anything live stream every Saturday here at 11 a.m. Eastern time on the Audibles channel. And by the way, come back to the Audibles channel on the regular. You all know, I'm sure many of you know, but if you don't know, the great Sigmund Bloom and Cecil Lammy hold down court here on a regular basis. Great stuff multiple times every week. I'm here every Tuesday night at 7 p.m. You'll see other live streams here as well. I think the DFS live streams on this channel. Waldman, will show up here with Jeff Bell. So just great stuff. And also Sunday morning, the pregame show on the Football Guys Fantasy Football channel, where you also find Alfredo Brown and Dave Kluge, the Dynasty channel, Jeff Bell and Jagger May and the crew there. The Sunday morning show is great. So check that out if you get a chance. Appreciate that. And also go to the website, footballguys.com. It's pretty good. It's my first year there. I feel like a new guy still, but you can find my weekly columns there. Thursday, the Fantasy Notebook. Friday, my Polarizing Players with Gary Davenport. It's his article. I just get to take part. And Saturday, my In and Out, which just should be up at any time now, where I kind of, try to get a little edgy and push the envelope a little bit, and on players that I would love to play and that I'm less eager to play. And I try to not be too chalky on that. All right. And the big deal. Every day, 5:30 a.m., the daily update podcast, me and Dempsey, Monday through Friday, 10 minutes. Just start the day off, give a quick listen, and find out all kinds of cool stuff that kind of you can look for throughout the day that'll kind of help keep you informed and on top of situations. No, I like being on the Audible with you old people. Thank you. And by the way, I see you guys all answering each other's questions. I love that. Very helpful. Because I'm not going to get to every question. It turns out I don't get to every question. That used to be the goal. I would just try to race through every question. But look, if you're not getting your question answered, go to footballguys.com. Check out the rankings. My rankings are there. I was just updating them and refreshing them this morning. And you can pick by selectors. You can pick the consensus. You can go just look at the raw projections. Our projections team, Jason Wood, Moral Tremblay, Justin Freeman, Bob Henry do a fantastic job of updating those in the minute based on all the latest news. So all kinds of stuff. Get the daily email update too, with me and Cecil and Sigmund delivering the news every week on a daily basis. Joe Bryant sending it to you. So by golly there, I think I've shilled every damn thing. I've been putting off the questions, but I don't really need to put off the questions. I want to get to the questions. But if I don't answer your question, some questions get repeated a lot, and I'm starting at the top of the list. So I know there are new questions coming at the bottom that are the same question. Some of you are asking the questions over and over and over because you think I'm not seeing the questions. That probably doesn't help your cause. Hi, Chris. Trade for Javonte or Kareem Hunt, Pacheco on IR. You have Pacheco on IR. I'm assuming that. Trade Pacheco for Chase Brown. You have Jacobs, Chuba, Dowdle, Rashad White. Who to start if Jacobs is out? That's a lot of questions in one question. So I probably wouldn't trade Javonte for Kareem Hunt. Like in a vacuum, I might like Kareem Hunt better, but Pacheco is probably going to come off IR at some point. I don't know when though. So if you like riding the hot hand that is Kareem Hunt, feel free to continue doing so. Chase Brown seems like he's taken over the bulk of the work. He's the primary role, right? Is his. Zach Moss is still going to be a factor. He's not going to be a factor this week against the Raiders. I love Chase Brown. He is my in at running back on this week's In and Out column. Super great matchup and a clear path to workload. So I love that one. This week I'd be playing like probably not the order you have them. Jacobs, Chuba, Rachaad White, and Dowdle, if Jacobs is out, in that order. So take your pick. Hello, Irish. PPR, one running back, one flex. Chase Brown, Jacobs, Marvin Harrison Jr. Do me a favor, people. Don't initial me. Don't just last name me if it's like Davis or Smith or whoever. Give me a little something to hang your hat on. Long time chat visitors know to put the opponent in each player's opponent in the list as well. It helps me out a lot. It just helps me process faster, so I don't have to stop and go. I'm going to do that anyway. So I'm very old. So I like Chase Brown the most on this list, but and like I would probably play the two running backs in this case. Like I get Marvin Harrison Jr. is coming off a great game. It's against Chicago tomorrow. Not as enthusiastic. I wasn't enthusiastic though last week. I'm going to be honest with you. Marvin Harrison Jr. went into that game with 3 straight single-digit games. He's just been hit or miss, right? And deciding when the hits are going to come. I didn't necessarily think the hit was going to come against Miami. And I don't think it'll come against Chicago, but it came against Miami and entirely could come against Chicago. Brian Thomas Jr., if he was fully healthy, would probably be ahead of Marvin Harrison Jr. for me. And JSN without is probably at the top of this list for me right now if Brian Thomas Jr. is not entirely healthy. So I hope that helped you out. Hi, Jeff Bolt. Half point PPR or wide receiver, running back, flex, Neighbors, Cup, Downs, Hunter, Stevenson. I have them exactly in that order. Exactly in that order. So you can go down that list if you want to play. So I'd be playing the first 2 receivers on that list and Hunt. Start Waddle or pick up Ridley, Tillman, Shakir, or Lockett from the waiver wire to start standard non-PPR. So Ridley, it's a pretty, it was a great game last week, but up to that point, he was having a miserable. 2 weeks ago, he had 0 catches on 8 targets, so like a league record. And he had 183 receiving yards until he met the Detroit Lions, where he had another 143. So I don't know exactly for sure. I think Mason Rudolph will play, so that might be a determining factor there. I would start Tillman and Shakir over Ridley and Waddle. I want to say it. Let me just double check the projections because I think that is correct. I think that conforms with the football guys' consensus as well. Yeah, I think that's exactly right. So there you have that. Good morning, Abdul Khan. Thanks for coming. Appreciate you loving my show. I love you coming here. Torn between. So we kind of went through this, right? So you can take this all the way up to kickoff. We'll be hearing things like we just heard, in the chat, Diana Rossini is out there saying he's going to play. I haven't read Rossini's column. I usually read it every Saturday. If you can't say something nice, don't say anything, I think is where I'm going to be right here on this. But we'll get more information from more insiders and kind of see. But my guess is she's probably right on this, and I think they probably are. That's what it felt like yesterday. And he has said all week that he plans to play. But I would be torn as well. I mean, I would not be torn if Jordan Love was fully healthy. This would be an easy call. It's not even close. So I think they're both, I'd take this all the way up to kickoff. Abdul, and listen to what the reporting is and see if anyone's saying, pay close attention to Jay Glazer. Jeff Bolt's a Lions fan. And I think this makes sense, right? A lot of Montgomery and Gibbs, no matter what, that makes perfect sense. Hey, Steve Atwood, thanks for coming, man. Running back question needs to start 2. Jacobs versus Detroit, Brian Robinson versus New York Giants. Like them in that order. And we just, you obviously have 2 guys who are questionable. Brian Robinson Jr. is the Washington a late? No, Washington's not a late game. Jacobs is the late game. So that might, but you do have a fallback. Do you have a fallback? Let's make sure you have a fallback here. Oh my goodness. Yeah. No, you don't. That makes it tricky, right? I would pay really close attention. So one of the things I try not to do here is tell people to play questionable players unless they have a fallback plan in place, right? And you don't have a fallback place. Brian Robinson Jr.'s early game, Madison an early game because they're traveling to Cincinnati, and Dowdle's at Atlanta. So ideally, I want to play Jacobs. I'm going to listen to the updates. If you can listen to the pregame show tomorrow, Steve, I'll have more on that. But that's kind of where I'm at. I like them in the order you have them. the questionable designations for Jacobs and Robinson complicate matters. Full point PPR, Tillman or Amari Ridley, Tillman or Amari Cooper. Like them in the Tillman, Ridley, Cooper order for me, and great starters ahead of them as well. We go to the bottom of the chat and see if anything's happening down here that I need to attend to. I'm kind of going back and forth. Making sure I'm not missing something, because Campers breaks news in here all the time, and I don't want to miss that. It's very helpful. And others, it turns out. I love this, man. I love getting information. You know, like, you guys would be surprised how much effort I put into being right on top of things in the moment. And when I'm sitting here for an hour, I can't be on top of things because I'm talking to you. So that you are keeping me on top of things, it warms my otherwise cold, dark heart. Let's see. Where were we? Do we like Knicks, Baltimore, Jameis against the Chargers? I like Knicks. Here's the thing. I wanted to talk about this a little bit. I think Knicks has got a little momentum. I think he's going against a very generous pass defense. The Jameis Winston just ripped for 300 yards and got a surprising win. So there's a couple schools of thought here. I was on with Nate Polboat on his Optimus Fantasy live stream yesterday. Nate is in Denver. He doesn't have a good feeling about this game. I will say Mike Dempsey also doesn't have a good feeling about this game. He thinks it's going to be the angry Ravens that show up after an embarrassing beating. It might well be. I don't know if that makes it any easier for them to cover opposing receivers, because they're just not good at it, right? They may have some pieces back in that secondary, but they haven't been good all year. They're giving up the most passing yards in the NFL. So I'm not against. I would play Bo Nix. I have Bo Nix ranked right inside my quarterback one range. I think I have him at 11, I want to say. I could check that. You could go check my rankings. But I have him well ahead of Jameis. I think it's a tough matchup for Jameis. That doesn't mean I'm not playing Tillman, but it does mean that I'm not like eagerly playing Jameis. I mean, I could play him for sure, but I'm playing Knicks here. And so, but there are people, and I get it, right? Like you guys get to that point where you like, this guy has gotten so good, it's time for an adjustment. We need to, and I feel like that's where Nate is at with him. Maybe as a Broncos fan, that adds to that. I think Dempsey is more on the lines of the Ravens have been so bad that they don't want to keep being that bad, that they're going to do something about it. I don't know if they can do anything about it. I just like the way it's looking, right? So I like the direction he's going. I think Nix looks like the real deal to me, playing with Sean. Well, the real deal in terms of, just like Brock Purdy excels because he buys into the Shanahan scheme and runs it the way Shanahan wants it run. I think we're seeing some of that from Bo Nix, and we're seeing that he and Sean Payton are developing a good relationship, the kind of relationship that Sean Payton has thrived in the past. So there you have that. I need to find a tight end for Njoku's bye week next week, says Trone Force. I would trade JSN for Evan Ingram, not Mark Andrews. I would target Ingram. I know Andrews is on a little touchdown roll. I was dismissive of him earlier this year. I'm still dismissive of him. This passing attack runs through the wide receivers. Maybe that opens things up for Andrews more. But the target shares are going, like in years past, Baltimore's offense has used their tight ends as more as wide receivers than their wide receivers. That shifted this year. You have Zay Flowers leading the team in targets. He's 10th in the NFL in targets right now, 61. They add Deontay Johnson. I don't know that hurts. I don't know that's good news for Rashad Bateman, but I don't think it hurts, Zay Flowers. This week's matchup hurts Zay Flowers. Don't like the Pat Surtain treatment. Baker Mayfield or Matthew Stafford. I don't like the matchup for Baker Mayfield. I feel like every time I don't, Robert, give Baker Mayfield his due respect, he smacks me in the face with a huge game, which means almost every week. I think he's had one not great game. I don't have a good feeling about this one. I would probably take this out to Sunday's kickoff, see if we've got Puka and Cooper Kupp and the whole crew's together. That might push me over the edge, but I think I don't think that conforms with the rankings right now. Let me just double check, because I think even the Football Guys projections right now are a little higher. Mayfield is well ahead of Stafford. Mayfield, though, is outside the top 12, if that, which makes perfect sense. He's 14. And he's been sliding down a little bit. By the way, Bo Nix has slid down on the projections to quarterback 12. That's not where he is on my rankings. I still have him ahead of Caleb Williams. Caleb Williams is ahead in the raw projections. I get it against Arizona. I'm still in on Nixon. We'll see if the momentum shifts. But I'm probably like the rankings here call for Baker Mayfield over Stafford. I think if you have a hunch on this, Robert, like if you're thinking, man, I just don't like this matchup. I don't like this matchup. But here's the thing. You'll hear me talk about this often. Don't play my hunches. Play your hunches, right? And if that is your hunch, it's not a crazy hunch. Baker Mayfield is a better player than he's been in the past. This is a better version of Baker Mayfield. The last 2 years, Baker Mayfield is the guy the Browns drafted and didn't wait for, right? This is the Bucs are taking advantage of a guy who maybe was every bit as good as his draft status, right? And just needed some time and maybe a few opportunities to be humbled, much like myself. You don't really get to where you need to be until you get humbled a few times. I am humbled every single week, not just by your presence, but by the stupid calls I make. And in hindsight, when I look back on them, and that's something we all need to do, right? Like we sit here and we make these decisions every week, and you're making lineup decisions, and you think they're right. Like I'm super aggressive when it comes to players with momentum in favorable matchups. Super aggressive. I'm not going to dial back on that. I get the feelings that some people have, like I was talking about with Dempsey and Nate Polvo. Like they feel like it gets to a point where there's a tipping point. I get there too, but I'm less likely to lean into that with a super favorable matchup. I'm just like, I want to leverage that. I can go back in hindsight and look at some of these things and see where it works and where it doesn't and make adjustments going forward. But that's that's my approach to those things. I'm a little more aggressive against matchups. I really want to play heavily into them. And so I say that, saying Baker Mayfield, I'm like maybe overstate the tough matchups a little bit, right? So that's something I'm watching. By the way, big news from me, Bob Harris, personal news. I have Pat Mahomes ranked as a quarterback 1 this week. I don't think Patrick Mahomes is a fantasy quarterback 1. And I've been talking about this and people get very upset with me. I went on NFL radio on their Sunday pregame show and said Patrick Mahomes is the best quarterback in the NFL. Also, he's a horrible fantasy quarterback. last November, what was it? The last week of November last year was the last time he was inside the top 12 finish as a quarterback, right? This offense has just changed. But even in this matchup, so see, and by the way, Patrick Mahomes' workload is increasing. The passing numbers are increasing. Part of Mahomes' problem has been this offense the Chiefs are winning and they don't need him to throw, right? And they've made adjustments based on injuries and attrition and things that have caused them problems. And they've adjusted successfully. Now they seem to be making a little bit of an adjustment the other way. And we'll see if DeAndre Hopkins can help with that. But this matchup's super favorable. So I'm going to be aggressive on this matchup as well. So that was a lot of nonsense about a simple question, wasn't it? Bucky Irving or Julius Chestnut. If there is no Tony Pollard, this is an easy play. Julius Chestnut is the target of opportunity going against the New England Patriots. What's my feeling about playing Doubs or Watson versus Detroit with or without Jordan Love, or would you insert Tolbert or Elijah Moore in a half-point PPR? I don't know that this is the best matchup for the Cleveland passing attack. Still like Tillman, still like Elijah Moore, fine. Tolbert, it's an okay matchup. I mean, you can only play one of those guys, right? So I would probably prefer to play Doubs of the two. Like I have heavy investment in Watson, and I think he's exactly what I drafted him to be, which is a swing for the fence play that doesn't connect very often. I hope he would connect more. It turns out Jameson Williams was that 9th round pick that I needed until he gets suspended and does other stupid stuff. I would prefer both of those guys, obviously, with Jordan Love. Malik Willis has been really serviceable, but I don't know that he's well, I do know he's not the passer that he is. But I think Tolbert and Elijah Moore are a little far down the list for me. So I would probably play either of them over Watson, but not Doubs. Hi, Miguel. How are you? Should I start Murray or Darnold tomorrow? So Darnold, I get TJ Hawkinson back. I'm probably playing Darnold in that one. Like I'm a Kyler Murray. I think Kyler Murray's been on a bit of a roll, right? But the Chicago defense just more daunting, right? It's the Indianapolis Colts. He has a new piece coming back in. I'm going to go Darnold here. Downs is a wide receiver one. He is ranked as a wide receiver one, both in my rankings and in the Football Guys raw projections. Standard scoring, Roma, Dunze, or McMillan. In standard scoring, I'm going to go with Dunze. Hey, Cleveland, if I didn't say that before. Hi, Robert G. Thanks for coming. Hey, a troubled mind. Happy to see you here. Here we go, Andrea. Tyrone Tracy versus Washington, Shakir versus Miami, Marvin Harrison Jr. versus Chicago. PPR, I'm playing Tyrone Tracy right now, one of the hottest players in the NFL. Will we chase the volume? It's not a daunting matchup. He outtouched Devin Singletary like 20-2 last week. I think the train has left the station here. The Tyrone Tracy train has left the station, and Devin Singletary missed it. And it's interesting. I mean, you know, I keep trying to tell myself, do I need to am I downplaying too much the possibility of Singletary still playing a significant role? Yes, I am. And there's a reason I am, because the Giants have downplayed it. So we saw Tracy start coming on while Singletary was hurt, and then he continued working when Singletary was back, but still limited in practice. That's changed. Singletary's off the injury report, totally healthy. He was last week, and we saw what happened. So we have the last 3 weeks, two top 6 finishes for Tyrone Tracy. I'm playing that. Look at you guys talk among yourselves. See, I think that's kind of where I was. Dan Hendry, he is. Abreu, 68. Full point PPR, running back 2, pick 1, start 2. I'm going to go Chuba over White. And like if Pollard's playing, I would probably play him in a great matchup, but I just don't have a good feeling that he's going to play. So I might be overstating the case here. Hi, Chris. Thanks for coming. Again, if you missed the conversation earlier, we were talking about Puka Nacua and the injury situation, where it sounds like he avoided serious injury, right? But also I can remember back in August when he hurt his knee in the joint practice against the Chargers, and it was no big deal. I also remember when Christian McCaffrey was just fine. I'm very skeptical these days. Very skeptical. We'll see. I mentioned, if you're just dialed in, I was talking about earlier how all the NFL insiders get the same group text at the same time, because you can see the tweets like immediately hit. They all hit within like 30 seconds of each other. It was like Schefter, Rappaport, Garofalo, Pelissero, and they all had similar versions of the same language, which, you know, like, no offense to them, but I mean, agents like to see their clients spoken of nicely, and, you know, there's a lot of quid pro quo kind of things going on. And so it was Francis who broke out the Rossini news. Well done, Francis. We'll see. I will be reading that piece later, because I read it every week, and it's an enjoyable piece. And a lot of it is not. I mean, not like this kind of thing, but man, a lot of it raises my eyebrows. I feel like she's trying really hard. Should I trade JSN for Bigsby, about to lose Mason? I don't know if you're going to lose him, but he's going to have a lesser role for sure. Bigsby's going to have a lesser role when Travis Etienne is back, right? Because Bigsby does not have a role in the passing game. He is just a runner. And Travis Etienne's, Doug Peterson says he's going to be starter, and I guess he probably will, but I don't think that really matters. It's going to be more situational. But Etienne can still run the football as well. So I think we're going to see that. We're going to see a split there for sure. So do you want to trade JSN for Bigsby? I don't know that I would. And I don't know if we won't see a split with Mason. So that's kind of where I'm at. The Seattle slings the ball like crazy, man. PPR, Bucky Irving and Jacobs, both questionable. Have Tucker on the bench. Sean Tucker. Or can pick up Singletary, Sanders, Roschon, Gibson, or McLaughlin. Have Kyler as quarterback. Do I drop Tucker or Caleb Williams to pick up a running back? So Tucker can be your fallback, right? I mean, I don't know, based on what we've seen recently. Roschon is the top of that list there for me. McLaughlin probably next. So who's the late afternoon window here? So you have Roschon. So I'd probably pick up Roschon. I don't want to drop Tucker or Caleb Williams to get him. But Roschon would be your late afternoon fallback for Jacobs, and Tucker would be your late afternoon fallback or Monday night fallback for Irving. That's how I would try to figure it out. Chestnut if he goes. If Pollard doesn't go. Andrew needs one. Kyler Murray versus Chicago. Josh Downs versus Minnesota. Shakir versus Miami. As much as I like Josh Downs and Shakir both, Josh Downs in the wide receiver 1 tier, Shakir locked into the tight wide receiver 2 tier. I'm still playing Kyler Murray, who is ranked as a starter for me, just was behind Darnold in that last question. Superflex, I'm dying to default to the quarterback, right? As the second, as over the other players, just for one reason: ball's in his hands every single play, right? Every single play. Good things and bad things could happen, but more good things than bad. Well, depends on the quarterback. Kyler Murray's case, more good things than bad. Good pass rush from Chicago could force him to do some extra running too. But Chris wants to know PPR flex Waddle, JSN, Javonte, Rashad, Dowdle. So one of those guys in the flex. Starting Garrett Wilson, so that went well. Downs, Jacobs, Chuba. T. Higgins, doubtful, so he will be a scratch. T. Higgins and Zach Moss, both doubtful. Did I miss them in my top? No, I got them. I'd probably go JSN. I'm going to check my flex rankings because honestly, it's pretty close. It's probably JSN for me with Metcalf out, right? Rain okay, wind bad, kind of. Mostly. Depends on how much wind. There we go. There we go. You kids in the chat. I would. Well, yeah. So Montgomery is another story. I mean, that's a little closer. I think, we've seen a lot of success for both running backs in that offense. So in most cases, I would almost absolutely default to the guy I think is getting the entirety of a workload over a guy who I think is getting a portion of a workload. But in this case, running behind the Detroit line, I'd probably go. I want to see how close it is in the raw projections, because I don't think they're as high. It's 24 and 25. So yes, and I'm higher on Tracy than the projections, by the way. But I think that's fair. I think Montgomery here is a fair shot. Hey, Michael, how are you? Glad to see you. Brian Robinson and Kareem Hunt currently starting in my guillotine league. B-Rob, questionable. Should I trust him or sub him out? Eckler on my bench. I would, if he's active, I would play him. Oh, wait. Chase Brown's available. I'm playing. I would love to play Chase Brown this week. And I would play him over Brian Robinson Jr. even if healthy this week. But also, if you don't want to make the move or you miss out on Chase Brown, you have the perfect situation, Michael, because you could totally sub him out. I would trust him if he's active. I think we've seen him. He's been working through this for a while. I don't know this injury is something that's serious enough. It just seems like it's maintenance during the week, and then he plays just fine. So I would probably follow that procedure. But would love to. Chase Brown's inside the football guy projections running back one list. I think he's moved up to 11 there, and I have him right in that same range in my rankings. You people in Jacksonville will love anything. Even Dempsey. It's crazy. Man, truer words never spoken. Madison versus Bengals or Javonte versus Ravens. I think the projections like Madison better than I do on this one. And they like him better than they like Javonte. They have Madison 22, Javonte 26. I'm not as hot, but I mean, Madison is, I mean, but that's right where Madison should be, right? It's just a matter of whether the offense is going to be functional. And against the Bengals, it should be. Are we high on Jalen Coker? Right? Like, I've been talking about this a little bit. I talk about it a lot, right? What are we doing with bad offenses? Well, we're cherry picking. We're picking the primary pieces. I think of it as a mine. I want to stay near the surface. I don't want to mine deeply into this offense. So do I know that any given week it's going to be Xavier Legette, who's questionable this week? Do I know going forward if Adam Thielen isn't going to emerge as Bryce Young's favorite player? I mean, again, your weekly reminder on this live stream that Adam Thielen was wide receiver 12 over the first 12 games of the season. He ended up as wide receiver 18, playing with a quarterback who threw 10 touchdowns and 11 interceptions in an offense that was tied for the lowest scoring offense in the NFL. It can happen. So, like, could it be Coker? Maybe. I think it's more likely to be Legette. And I think once he's back, it's even more likely to be Thielen, just with the connection with Bryce Young. And it seems like they're going to stick with Bryce Young. But it's totally up in the air, Steve. I'm going to admit that my ability to predict with accuracy what this horrible offense and they're horrible again this year, right? So let's not sell them short. There, two teams have scored fewer points than they. The Giants and Titans have scored fewer points, but I think most of that came from because they had one or two really big games. Half point, but Coker is pretty popular, right? I mean, I get it. He's the range of outcomes for him is yes, he ends up being that guy, but I think it's still more likely to be looked at in my book. Half point PPR: McConkey versus Browns, or Mooney versus Cowboys, or Waddle versus Bills. Man, I want to play McConkey so bad. He is my in on my in and out column this week, by the way, at wide receiver. The role is growing. Phillip Rivers is passing more. I think over the last 3 games, 288 yards. Last 2 games, 300 yards, 314 yards passing a game. McConkey's a big fisher. Quentin Johnston is back this week, and he's been out. But I think McConkey has established himself. Jim Harbaugh called him or compared him to Steve Smith Jr. But more importantly, Justin Herbert has talked about how the connection is there. So I really want to start him. I'm not against playing Mooney. I want to see what the projections say. I'm more in on McConkey this week on this one. But let me just see if the projections think I'm crazy. And they do. The projections prefer Mooney. Mooney is 22 on the projections. McConkey's 26. I have McConkey finishing ahead of that in my mind. But if you want to stick with the projections, those guys are much wiser than me and don't let their emotions and their hunches play into it. And one more time, if you just signed in, I'm Bob Harris. Hi, if you just got here. Happy you made it. And we got about 12 more minutes, so I'll try to get through as many questions as I can here. And I apologize if I don't get to your question. If I didn't get to your question, call my radio show. I'm on 3 hours tonight. We take questions throughout the show. Hit me up again all week long. We've been doing questions all Monday night, all Wednesday night, all Thursday night, all Friday night, and tons of questions. So if you get a chance, call into Sirius. It's 10 to midnight on the weeknights, and tonight 8 to 11. So I like McConkey, and maybe Waddle should be so here's the thing. I'm not big on the Miami offense this week. I mean, Buffalo has had Tua Tagovailoa below his number. I mean, it doesn't mean I wouldn't play Tyreek Hill. I think you're playing him because his big playability. Waddle has that same ability. He's a little further down the list for me. Jamison Tillman should be fire rest of season. I think I agree with that for the most part. Brian Robinson Jr., Javonte Williams, Chubb, Chase Brown, Bucky Irving, Etienne, or Eckler this week. If it's just one, I have Chase Brown at the top of my rankings, Michael. If you go to the site, read my in and out column. I don't know if it's been published yet, but when it is, it'll be up. Let me see if it's out there yet today. I don't know if it is. But it will be soon. It's done. So to watch for it. And I go into pretty great length on what I see about Chase Brown this week. But he's at the top of my ranks there. Also the top of the projections. Hello, SkyZearCom 66, SkyRizCon 7. Thanks for coming. Hi, Robert G. Quentin Johnson, Romeo Dubs, also Mayfield or Stafford. We went through this at length. If you missed it, we ended up as, Mayfield is ranked well ahead of Stafford. Stafford, if Puka's in, probably wouldn't mind playing him. If Love and on Quentin Johnson, Romeo Dubs. You're not going to know. It's a late afternoon kickoff, so you're not going to know if it's Love or, if you have a pretty good idea, it's Jordan Love, I'd probably play Dubs. If not, I'd probably play Quentin Johnston. They are great. Other dude is Sigmund Bloom. He's fantastic. Great other people, too. The whole crew of football guys, fantastic. Kluge, Alfredo Brown. Love those guys. Jeff Bell, Jagger May, Joey Wright. Devin Knott, all the people who show up on the various live streams. And if I start listing them off, I'll leave somebody off and I will be a D word. Sorry, Joe, for even thinking it. 2-6 must win going forward. Half-point PPR, Tillman or Hopkins. I prefer Tillman to Hopkins. It's a great matchup, though, for Hopkins, but I prefer Tillman. I do not deserve my yeah, thank you. Thank you for that, Scampers. Love the back and forth in the chat between y'all. It's very helpful. It makes me feel better that I don't get the questions when I know you guys are out there discussing them and working through them. Very knowledgeable chat here, people. If you're a newbie to the game and you want to get some good advice and I don't get to you, listen to some of these voices in the chat. I have never seen anyone throw out like totally nonsensical advice. I mean, I don't agree with all of it, but none of it's nonsensical. It's usually thoughtful and on point. Flex Montgomery or Cedric Brown? I'm at a loss, Steve. If you mean Chase. If you mean Cedric, Montgomery. I know this is hard to predict, but who's more likely to be traded? So, like, Darius Slayton's doing just fine. It's amazing how well he's been playing. I have to play him a lot because I have some leagues where I'm in a pinch, and he's still been pretty damn productive. I think it would be him. Depending on where the landing spot is for Khalil Herbert. If it's Dallas, I mean, are they running the ball that well that I feel like he would gain a lot of steam? I don't know. I mean, clearly he would gain the most value because he has 0 in Chicago. I think that's fair. Bigsby or Rachaad White? I'd probably lean to Rachaad White. Don't like the matchup, but like the role and as a receiver. Slight lean to me for Tillman, but this one's way closer than, with DK Metcalf out than it would otherwise would be. Yes, those are the magazines I used to work for. 30 years in the magazine business. So Pro Forecast, very proud of my time with that. And sorry the time ended, but happy to have a great landing spot in football, guys. Thank you, Mr. Scampers. Appreciate that. Don't worry, man. Hi, Andy and Renee. Need to sit 1. Nope. Sitting Worthy. Sorry, and so this might be a good one where we can sit here and we can say, like, what do you need? You already have a swing for the fence in Neighbors. Do you want to play 2 Giants? I want to play 2 Giants here. I want to play Shakir. I like McConkey. Worthy's at the tail end of this. And so since I already have 1 swing for the fence, I don't know that I need another. And by swing for the fence, I mean Neighbors is like every time he's on the field is swing for the fence. Yeah, I'm playing those guys over Worthy. And I know it's a great matchup. And I know I like Patrick Mahomes this week. And if Patrick Mahomes is doing something, Worthy's going to be involved. But this is just Andy Ray. This is a very strong list. Hunter Henry for me. We'll see about that. I think Jacobs will be fine too. That's my feeling as I sit here is they're going to limit him in practice a lot during the weeks because he has a monster workload. You're going to see that with running backs. It makes perfect sense. That'll be a first. Did I miss your question there? Yeah. Start Amari Cooper, Jacoby Myers, Tillman in full PPR. I like them in the reverse order that you have them. Myers, an overlooked commodity, people. Guy finished as wide receiver 24 last year, playing with an assortment of not great quarterbacking, and he just this goes back to his days in New England. He was just so easy to overlook. Question with context from a troubled mind. I have the first three and a hunch that Herbert is about to hit a new level despite awful SOS Superflex. Geno Herbert. Lawrence is coming on, right? So I want to say Lawrence. The last month has been pretty good for Lawrence. 72% completion. The touchdown numbers are up. He's like what he doesn't fare well is because his receivers drop the football. But his receiving core is more limited right now. While Herbert's is gaining steam and Herbert is gaining steam, I'm kind of with you on this one. They're all suitable plays, though. Hello, Impossible. Blah, blah, blah. 2 wide receivers, 2 flex. You want me to pick all these for you? You don't want to narrow it down? You don't want to pick some of your own? Pick some of your own? Like, what if I told you not to play Justin Jefferson? Are you not going to play him? I mean, come on, man. I mean, after that, I mean, like, I don't like Flowers this week playing Pat Surtain. I do like Pittman playing with Flacco. I like JSN more. I like Tillman slightly more. If I told you not to play Kyren, would you not play? I mean, come on. You got to limit these things. I probably like the running backs mostly in the order you have them, except I like it's Kyren, Chase, Cook, Tracy, Hubbard, Eckler. Hope that helps. Narrow them down, people. Titans versus New England or Chargers versus Cleveland versus... I might go with the Chargers in this one just because Jameis occasionally throws it away. Who would be your waiver wire pickup if Brian Thomas Jr. is ruled out the last minute? Don't know who's available, Andrew. If I wanted a Jaguar, I would be Parker Washington would be an easy pivot. I don't think Tim Jones is the guy you want, who would be the direct replacement. Got a few more minutes. Oh, Poppy Legs. Nobody needs a nickname. Nobody needs that nickname. Kyler Murray versus Barabo next versus the Ravens. This one's very close. Personal preference. If we're going strictly by the rankings, River 74X, it's Kyler Murray. You want to play my hunch? Play my hunch. I like Bo Nix, but I don't like him more. I would probably still play Murray. As per Tuesday night, so dropped Deontay for Tillman. Now half-point PPR. Well, thanks, Jason. Tillman, Dobbs, or Mostert? Tillman. It's a tough look. It's not a great matchup for him. I realize this. Yet still, the volume has been fantastic, and his ability to leverage it has been even better. Daddle or Chuba and a half. I'm going to take Chuba there. By golly. Scamper's in agreement. See, man, the chat is smart. The chat is smart. Yes. Save us all, right? Tough call on tight end. I'm probably still playing Ferguson in this one. Like Mark Andrews has been on the touchdown run. If you think he can continue that, by all means, I've been skeptical, and yet he persists. Right? So, like, there we go. Scampers has no news at the moment, or as of a few minutes ago. Let me scroll down to the bottom. I'm not going to get to all these. Yes. Do that for sure. Thank you for promoting the show, Royal Slate. I appreciate it. Slayton is a victim in an abusive relationship. Beer Bob, listen to Joey, right? Joey knows. Caw-caw. The eagle scream comes through loud and clear, sir. Mostert or Dobbins and a half. I'm going to go ahead and take Dobbins. Don't love the matchup. Love the volume. I'm sorry. I should light it up, huh? I agree with that. Monty is Montgomery. Darnell Mooney or Zay Flowers. I'm probably playing Mooney in this one, people. Right? Like I said. So again, one more time. I'm aggressive on the matchups, right? I'm just like, I'm aggressive. You don't have to be. Like, we drafted players to be certain things. I mean, just like the NFL teams, you're playing your best players no matter what the matchup is, right? They have fewer choices than we do. But I just like Pat Surtain. We can go back over the course of the season. DK Metcalf, Mike Evans, Garrett Wilson. I mean, like week after week, he's just shutting people down and holding them to single-digit points. I don't know if I need to take that chance when I have other options. Any running back trade rumors we should be thinking about? Khalil Herbert's the one everyone's talking about. Miles Sanders is another one, Corey. that people are saying more likely than Hubbard, it would be Sanders that moves on. I know this was repeated this week in the ESPN, the Graziano and Fowler column, and I agree with that. Coleman, Hopkins, Wandale. Coleman. It's not, I hate it when that happens. I like Wandale's volume. You kids with not using your first names. Oh, Keon Coleman. And I like Keon Coleman. Don't know that I like him more than I like those other guys. I do like Keon Coleman. Joey Wright, were you on that live stream with me on draft night when I predicted it was going to be Coleman that got picked by the Buffalo Bills right before he got picked by the Buffalo Bills? And I explained exactly why, and now he's living up to exactly what I said. Victory lap. All right, everybody, I've run over my time. I'm not going to get to every damn question. Sorry, Joe. But I tried my best. Again, you can catch me on the SiriusXM Fantasy Sports Radio Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. This coming Thursday, Joey Wright will be on the show at 11 p.m. But I'm on from 10 until midnight. Joey Wright will be a guest. Tonight, 8 to 11 on SiriusXM NFL and Fantasy Sports Radio. It's called a simulcast, people. It's all the rage. 2 channels, all the same goodness. Tonight, we'll have Jamie Calandro on to talk DFS. Andy Behrens will be joining me as the fantasy guest. Then tomorrow, Jeff Mans and I will be doing the pregame show, but you should be paying attention to the Football Guys, the Fantasy Football channel, where Joey will be running the affairs for the morning show. Also, check the game day updates page at Football Guys. Fantastic, up-to-the-minute stuff, all the inactives, everything you need to know right in the moment that it happens. And otherwise, I'll be back here next Tuesday. Gino. Next Tuesday at 7 p.m. Eastern time for an On the Hot Seat. Working on my guest right now. I have a good idea who it is, and you'll loving that guest. You love all of them. Every morning, weekday morning at 5:30 a.m., the Football Guys Daily Update podcast drops 10 minutes of your day to set you up to things you need to watch for, news that's going to be important to you. Just a nice little tidbit. And check out all my stuff on footballguys.com. My rankings are there right now. I've been adjusting them while we're doing the show. Been adjusting them before the show. I will adjust them more after the show to reflect all the latest news. The projections are also tweaked right up through kickoff. So check all that out. My fantasy notebook on Thursday. Polarizing players with Gary Davenport on Fridays. My in and out column today, Saturday, will be up shortly with some logic-based hot takes that hopefully are on point. That's all, everybody. That's all I got. Appreciate your time. I know there's a lot of choices out there. I appreciate you spending some time with me. And here we go. There we go. Scampers breaking it. Pelissero now piling on with Diana Rossini. So that seems like it's heading in that direction. And with that happy note, we'll end this one. We'll see you Tuesday, 7 p.m.